Uh, E5110. This is Probability Foundations for Electrical Engineering. And let me get myself introduced. I am T.G. Venkatesh, an associate professor in the Electrical Engineering Department of IIT Madras. So I am the course instructor for this course E5110. This semester, this is going to be an online course, although it falls in the A slot, whose timings are given here. The way the course is going to be conducted is as follows. We will I will be recording these lectures for this course, and I will be uploading this course in a site called as the Moodle site. For this course, we will have a particular web page in the Moodle, and all the recorded lectures will be posted in this site. And this approach has been followed because I could have given a real-time presentation of the video. And this course is being taken by a large number of students, running into about 80 or so. And there may be connectivity problems for some students and so on. And because of that, anyhow, there has to be a recorded version of this lecture, which has to be made available for the students. And interaction with this large number of students through internet, again, may not be very effective. So the way this course is going to be presented is that I'll be recording lectures amounting to 350 minutes, which may be given as 3 slots, or lectures of duration of 30 minutes or 40 minutes and so on, but totally amounting to roughly about 2.5 hours every week. And that will be posted in the Moodle website for this EE5110 course. Typically at the beginning of the week, that is the Monday, and then we will be having a tutorial session. This tutorial session will be held in one of the A slot lecture hour. Okay, and this will be asynchronous in this manner, in the sense that all students have to attend this tutorial lecture at the same time, while listening to the video can be done at your convenience, which is asynchronous. However, there will be a synchronous tutorial hour every week. So this 1 hour is going to be a fixed one, and it will be common for all these students. At this juncture, we will tentatively keep the tutorial tutorial slot to be on Thursday 11 to 12. And then we will work it out which is the most convenient timing for all. So kindly be available during this tutorial slot, okay? And do not engage yourself with any other commitment, academic or non-academic. And again, there will be a number of teaching assistants who will be available and would be helping me in conducting this course. Typically, there will be 12 teaching assistants because we expect the strength to be around 80 or so. So the students will be divided into groups of typically 8 or 10 per group, and one teaching assistant will be handling each group. And during that tutorial session, Google Meets or some form of internet-based meeting would be set up by each TA, which with the group of students whom that TA is handling. And during that, our tutorial session will be conducted. I would also be available, but because parallelly there will be 10 tutorial sessions that will be going on, I would be hopping from one tutorial session to another tutorial session and so on. And if you have any doubt or any clarification, you can ask me at that time, or we can have an extended time period in which doubt clarifications can be done in a real-time manner. Okay. So I will be, as I mentioned, I will be posting the lecture material typically on the beginning of the week. Then for every week, based on the lecture that has been given during that week, a tutorial problem sheet will be prepared, and it will be again posted in the Moodle web page. So the tutorial session for the lectures delivered in a given week will be conducted in the next week. So the tutorial problems might be released at the end of that week, say by Friday, and you will have time till about the weekend, and then Monday, Tuesday, and so on to try out those problems. And during the tutorial session, which will be maybe in Thursday the following week, TAs will be available to clarify the doubts that you have, and I would also be available. This is the arrangement. And also we plan to have a quiz every week, which will be an MCQ based quiz on the net for you to self-evaluate and so on. Whether we will use it for the actual evaluation for the course and so on will be announced later. But typically I thought that if you don't have any evaluation strategy, it may be difficult for you to know how prepared you are, how you are following this course. To that extent, these quizzes will be, and these tutorial sessions will be of help to you. Okay, so this is the broad outline of the course. And so today, in this first, what is called as the orientation lecture, I will start giving an outline of the course content. I will also talking about the textbooks and the reference books that you have to follow. And the evaluation method strategy itself will be announced in detail later. To some extent, certain components that are involved in the evaluation procedure will be known to you. Okay. So before we begin with, okay, so what is this course on, and what will be its utility in this current program that you do and beyond that in your profession? That is what we will talk about a little bit. So as you know, probability is a very important field or aspect of mathematics that is not only useful from the mathematical perspective, but it has wide application on science, engineering, humanities, and so on. Okay, basically we are interested in dealing with uncertainties, or we have to have an understanding of our knowledge of certain physical phenomena, or a measure of our ignorance of some physical phenomena. To this end, how do we quantify our knowledge or ignorance of how much we know or aware of certain physical phenomena? The whole quantification process and formalization method is what the probability is all about. Why does it arise? Okay, there are a variety of reasons why the notion of probability and the theory of probability is required. Okay, to begin with, you are probably in a typical scientific inquiry process. You conduct an experiment, you find out look at the outcome of what it comes and try to come up with a formalism or a mathematical model to explain the phenomenon. Okay, so maybe physics, chemistry, or biology, and so on. Coming to engineering, what we do is, once we know some basic understanding of the physical phenomenon, we will try to design systems which will have some utility for our society. So this is the broad thing. If you know everything well about a particular system, more or less it is well understood, okay, then such characterization, it's called as the deterministic way of understanding or modeling the system, where to a very good precision we can tell how the outcome of that experiment is going to be. But in many cases, if you perform an experiment, the outcome is not known to us ahead in time. Okay, so determinism cannot work. So we have to have an alternate method by which we can still tell something about the nature of the experiment, the outcome of the experiment, and so on. And that is where probability comes into picture. Why does it occur? One thing is that is the full details of the experiment, okay, are not even available to you. Okay, the system is so large that you don't have enough knowledge in order to come up with the mathematical model to predict the outcomes. For example, let us say you are a marketing person, you are trying to look at the way the customers arrive to a particular shop in order to find out, okay, the predicted sales and so on. The customers are going to be the people who may be anywhere from your metropolitan city where you live. Okay, how do you predict who is going to arrive, who is not going to arrive? It's totally random in nature. Okay, so if you want to predict how many are likely to arrive in the next 1 hour, you just can't give a deterministic answer. If you want to come up with a deterministic model, probably you could inquire everyone and then tell that all of you have to decide to come to my shop, made up your mind, have to intimate me before coming. Then it is quite possible for you to know the number, but that is not what any customer would like to give you all these information in advance. So basically the information is not available to you. Still, we have to work out the various related design decisions. The arrival of number of packets, the occurrence of different events such as the rainfall in a city, okay, and the birth of individuals, babies in a city. So many things are quite random in nature. It may be possible to predict it, but the system is very complex. You don't have information. You are not accessible to the information. So thereby we get into a situation where a probabilistic based formalism needs to be developed. The second aspect which may lead to this need for the probabilistic theory is that the system is very complex, that it is very difficult to account for all the details which allow us to make deterministic predictions. Take, for example, a simple case of tossing of a coin. Okay, there are only two possible outcomes, head or tail. So you are asked to predict what will come, definitely come when you toss a coin. Well, it may be possible for you to predict, provided you work out your physics well. For example, what all you should know is that what is the weight of the coin, what is the force with which you toss the coin, and then the acceleration to the gravity at that point, and then the air resistance, and so many other various parameters. If you are known all these details, probably you may be able to predict. But that is too much to call for in order to construct a model for this simple system. The complexity is enormous. To give another example, suppose we have a system, okay, there are let us say 100 or even let us say 15 or 20 physical parameters which will decide the outcome of this experiment. Coming up with a system of equation involving all these parameters and then solving it, they may be non-linear and so on, solving all these things and then predicting the outcome, which is again a physical variable, okay, will be a very complex one. Okay, out of which what you may know is that there are only few variables which majorly affect the outcome. There are many other factors which will have an impact but only minor in nature. Then what you could do is you divide these variables into two groups, one which affect it to a larger extent, and then construct a system model based on that, and then those who affect it to a lesser extent, minor extent, you model it as a what is called as the stochastic process or a random component input which affects the system, and then give a probabilistic prescription where you tell is the output is more or less decided by these deterministic factors, but not exactly. There is some role being played by the random component, and the output will be around this deterministically predicted value. So that kind of prediction, okay, and that kind is more meaningful, and that is called as the stochastic modeling or probabilistic modeling. So we saw that one, the information is not enough or not available to you, that leads to probability formalism. Second, the system is so complex that you don't want to formulate it and come up with a fully deterministic model. The third thing is, even if you assume that there are only few variables and you may be able to come up with a deterministic model, again, the determinism may fail. For example, even a deterministic system governed by some nonlinear equations may exhibit chaotic behavior. Aspects like chaos, strange attractors, and so on may persist. What it simply tells is that even a small variation, okay, in the initial values of the governing variables may lead to a larger deviation in the output of the system as time evolves. Okay, so because of that, you may not be able to precisely tell the initial conditions with infinite precision. Even a small error in your initial prediction of your initial condition may lead to a fact that beyond a point, okay, the output, you may not be able to trace the evolution of the system precisely. So that is another case. So again, a probabilistic foundation is required. Okay, so these are all at the classical level or the level of prescription, okay, with which we work in our day-to-day life. Okay, but more profoundly, if you look at the description of our universe, okay, classical laws do not hold good always. Okay, what is more fundamental is the quantum mechanical description of the systems. So if you look at systems, especially which are on the smaller sizes, like fundamental particles or even at the atomic scales, we found that it is difficult to it's not the right way. Deterministic formalism is not possible. So what you can rather do is that every system is being defined using a state or a wave function, which just gives the probability amplitude for the system to be in that particular state. And there can be one or more well-defined states in which the system can exist, but we only know the probability amplitude for it to be present in different states. And the square of the probability amplitude will give you at any given time the classical probability that if you make a measurement or an observation, the system is found to be in that state. Which means that at a much more fundamental level, the universe itself has got a probabilistic description. So with all these in mind, we find that there is a requirement that we have to deal with probability, whether we all the time like it or not. This description is required, and we have to have a good theory in order to handle these uncertainties and so on. One more final point is that many times the concept of probability and the stochastic process are not given the due importance that is being has to be given, because what we are normally taught in many cases, that especially in dealing with signals, is that you have a signal of interest to us and you have what is called as unwanted component called noise that is also present. Okay, that noise arises because of the random component. All you have to do is to remove those noise, and as long as you can remove those noise, you will be able to work with a well-known systems, okay, well-known signals and so on. So usually we think these random components as unwanted signals, okay, which has to be just something ugly which needs to be removed and so on. But what really happens is these random components are not something that comes in separate packet as compared to the deterministic one. They are together hand in hand, and we have to handle both of them together. Okay, so that is something which you should always keep it in mind. Well, now with this brief introduction about the motivation for this probability, where is it being used? That is, where do you use the probability theory? Everywhere. Okay, so in the case of electrical engineering, in the case of physics, chemistry, biology, humanities, finance, economics, everywhere there is an application of probability theory. As you might know, in communication, of course, if you have the arrival of packets to a network, the signals that is being received by mobile phones, okay, they are all random in nature. The characterization of systems that you want to control, okay, may have random components, so you have to use stochastic control. There may be noise, thermal noise that may be present in devices, semiconductor devices that you may have to handle, and so on. And even in the knowledge that you possess, which you may try to interpret using machine learning or AI technique, there may be certain values or the data that is not of importance to is so that you may treat it as a random or unwanted one, and you have to extract what is relevant to us. Okay, so that is another thing. Again, in physics and statistical mechanics, okay, we have to deal with probability. And let us say in chemistry, the way the chemical reaction goes and the prediction of the reaction rate, for that again reaction rate theory has to be used. And of course the way when it comes to biology, okay, in genetic engineering again it comes, okay, and also even in the case of measurement, okay, if you want to model how rumors spread, or let us say for example diseases spread, as we are currently in a case of a COVID-19 pandemic situation, how diseases spread, okay, for that also we need to have a probabilistic modeling. Okay, similarly how stock market change in the case of finance, and of course in mechanical engineering the noise, vibrations, and so on. So the applications and the requirement are endless. Okay, so what we will do is, as much as possible, we will in this course concentrate on the basics of probability and the theory. We will try to draw applications from various fields of science and engineering in order to motivate how the developed theory can be made use of, and so on. So here we will start off with the topics that I'm going to cover. The course content is as follows. We will start off with the introduction. We will tell what is called as a random experiment whose outcome is not known. How do we model it? We will introduce the notion of sample space, the sample point, which are the elementary outcome when you conduct this experiment. Then we define what are called as events, which are subsets in the sample space, which is of the things that are of interest to us. And we will construct what is called as a collection of events, which will obey certain rules called as the sigma algebra. So with this one, we will construct what is called as the axiomatic theory of probability. Then we will talk about the probability triple, which has got the sample space, the sigma algebra, and a measure called as the probability measure defined on it. Then we will also talk about the different events, okay, and their relationship between one another, whether they are mutually exclusive events or independent events or dependent events, and so on. We will also talk about conditional events. That is, given that one event has occurred, will it affect the probability measure of other events? And those aspects we will talk about. To this end, we will also look at the most famous theorem called as the Bayes theorem, which will allow you to predict the from the a priori probability, posterior probability, and so on. We will also see in this part of the section that we can use heavily the set theory, Venn diagram to a larger extent to come up with the probability theory. Tree diagram is also something that we can make use of. Then there are certain kind of problems, okay, wherein the computation of the probability, as you might very well know, is boiled down to the probability that an event occurs is basically given by the favorable number of outcomes which favor the occurrence of the event to the total number of outcomes that are possible when the experiment is conducted. This will typically have when all elementary outcomes or sample points are equally likely. So in this case, the measuring of probability basically boils down to finding the number of elementary outcomes that contribute to the event. So it is basically a counting problem. So in this case, we can make use of the field of mathematics called as the combinatorics to a greater extent. We will look at the various basics of combinatorics, namely the multiplication rule. Then we will talk about the permutation. Then how do we come up with a partition of a group, that is a collection of subsets which are mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, and how you can make use of it. We will talk about the different ways of the performing of an experiment can be viewed as sampling an element from, okay, possible outcomes that are present. So we will heavily use the word or terminology called sampling, which is just another way of telling that an experiment has been conducted. or an observation, and so on. So there can be many ways in which sampling can be done. You can sample an element from a set with replacement or without replacement. And the order in which you have sampled can be maintained, or you may not bother about the ordering. So you may have an ordered sampling or unordered sampling with or without replacement. And the elements can be distinct or the elements can be identical. So because of all these things, we will see how the counting numbers will differ. Again, from permutation, we will go on and then look at what is called as the combination. And then we will look at the binomial coefficient, how it will play a role in order to come up with the value of combinations, usually called as the NCR and so on. With all these in place, we will look at some problems related to common out, that is basically counting related problems. And also we will look at some classical counting problems. With all these basic ideas set in our mind, we will now introduce the notion of the random variable, which is nothing but a function mapping from the sigma algebra onto the real line. Okay, so with this in mind, we will define what is a random variable. And henceforth, instead of talking about events, we will only be talking about random variables. And the probability measure from the sigma algebra, we will translate to the probability measure on what is called as the Borel field, okay, defined on the random in the real line. So this we will migrate to this. Again, if the random variable is such a nature that it can only take discrete values, which can be countably finite or infinite, then they are called as the discrete valued random variables. Okay, so we will first look at what these random variables are. In order to prescribe them, we can use what is called as the probability mass function, denoted in short as PMF, or we can define what is called as the cumulative distribution function, which is just the probability that the random variable takes a value less than or equal to a given value. So with these two notions in mind, we will look at how much of information we can extract based from this random variable. We will look at how the average or expected value of the random variable can be measured. That is called as the expectation. We will generalize the concept and define what are called as the moments and central moments, which are nothing but the moments in which we will subtract from the random variable the expected value and take moments. We will also talk about variance and the square root of variance called as the standard deviation and so on. Then we will take some exemplar discrete valued random variable and look at the different aspects of these things, namely the uniform discrete random variable, the Bernoulli random variable, the binomial, the geometric random variable, the Poisson random variable, negative binomial random variable, hypergeometric random variable, and so on. For all these things, we will arrive at the PMF, the CDF, the expectation, variance, and so on. Then we will move on to continuous valued random variable. So in this case, we will have an analogous quantity called as the probability density function, known as the PDF. We will see what PDF is. Then we will also see the CDF, okay, of the continuous valued random variable. Then we will again have a look at similar quantities like the moments of the continuous valued random variables and the central moments, variance, and all these things. Again, all those things can be looked upon. Then we will take some example basic continuous valued random variable, namely the uniform, the exponential, the Gaussian or the normal distribution. We will talk about continuous analogous of the Bayes rule for the case of continuous valued random variable. We will also touch upon the mixed values random variable, where the random variable can take values which are discrete in nature or spread over certain continuum range. Well, there is, when you always deal with a probability theory, okay, the way the mathematician usually treat is by using what is called as the measure theory to a larger extent. This is a more rigorous formalism of the probability, whereas engineers tend to use the classical method, which is what we will be mainly be following in this course. But we will have a basic look at how the measure theoretic formulation of the probability, okay, is be useful, okay. A brief treatment will be given. Then we will talk about more than one random variable. Let us say multiple random variables. We'll start off with 2 or 3 random variables. And now we will have what are called as the joint density functions or joint mass functions, as the case may be for those joint or collection of random variables. We will talk about the joint CDF, and then what is called as the marginal PDF, that is from the joint prescription, how do we extract the marginal or individual probability density functions. Then we can also arrive at what are called as the joint moments. We'll take some examples, okay, like jointly Gaussian random variables, how they behave and so on. Once we say there are more than one random variable, we can talk about whether those random variables are dependent or independent random variables and their implications on how the mass function behaves and so on. We can also talk about conditional expectation. Given some condition on one random variable, how it will affect the probability measure of certain events or the values taken by other random variables. Then we will generalize this concept of the number of random variables from 2 or 3 to any value, say n. Then we define what are called as the random vectors, the covariance matrix, and so on. Having come to multiple random variables, then we will talk about random variables which are dependent on each other. We may have an independent random variable which is defined over a random experiment. Okay, based on those independent random variable, you can define dependent random variable or functions of those random variables, both in the case of discrete as well as continuous domain. Then given the prescription for the independent random variable, how do we come up with the prescription for the functions of random variable? That we will see. Then we will also look at the concept of covariance and correlation. We will take the simple case of a function of 2 or 3 random variables, namely the sum of random variables and their properties. Okay. Then we will get into a concept called as order statistics, when we have a collection of random variable and then make a realization of that one. And if you are always interested in the maximum value of that realization or the minimum value of that realization, how the random variable defining the maximum value will behave or the minimum value will behave. That is called as the order statistics. We will have a look at it. Then in many cases, the density function or the mass function or a CDF for that matter may not be available for a random variable. You just don't know what distribution it follows. What all you may know is their expectation or variance or only few moments. Under those circumstances, how do we get some information about the bounds on the values taken by those random variables? What is the probability that the random variable will take a value less than or equal to x, given that you only know about the expected value of that or variance and so on. To that extent, some inequalities are useful. Markov inequality, Chebyshev bound or inequality is of use to that. This Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, Chernow's bounds, all those things can be made use of. Then we will get into what is called as the weak and strong law of large numbers and the concept of central limit theorem, which comes very handy when you have a large number of large number of random variables and the collection, how the importance of Gaussian way of modeling the distribution comes into picture. With this basic idea in our mind, okay, so before I begin, so roughly what we will be doing is we will be devoting 1 week or so for each of this topic. Roughly, if you divide the entire course, normally this course is being divided into 3 units or portions. One from the beginning up to the quiz 1, then between quiz 1 and quiz 2, and then from quiz 2 to end semester. Normally, we have 4 weeks for each of this portion. That is before quiz 1, 4 weeks, and so on. So roughly in this case, you can, what we will try to do in the first 1 month of this course, okay, we will try to cover the first 3 or 4 chapters, okay, or topics till about continuous valued random variable. In the next month, we will try to cover the from measure theoretic formulation up to about limit theorems, or probably a little bit about the special distributions. And in the last portion or the session of this course, we will look at what are called as the little bit advanced topics of probability theory. Okay, so this is what you could have it in your mind when you want to prepare ahead in time and for this course. Having looked at some of the basics, we will get into some little bit advanced concepts in probability. We will look at some special distributions which are quite often encountered in modeling different scientific engineering problems. Such distributions we will look at. Some of them are gamma distribution, Webel distribution, HED distribution, Cauchy, Laplace, beta, log normal, logistic, and Pareto, and so on. Then, having looked at all these things, we will try to touch upon another very important branch in mathematics, which often come hand in hand with probability theory, but often less emphasized, which is called the statistics. Okay, we will try to touch upon some basic aspects of statistics. Here, basically, in the case of probability theory, we assume that the probability measures for different events or the random variable are given to you. And then you work out using your probability theory the various other probability measures. To begin with, how do we first of all come up with these measures? That is what we will concentrate in statistics. We'll look at point estimation theory, hypothesis testing, statistical inference, and so on. Then the next logical step when we go from probability theory is that stochastic process. Instead of talking about individual random variable, if we have a well-defined collection of random variable, also called as the indexed set of random variables, then often a random variable whose time evolution is being looked upon, then we have what is called the stochastic process. We will have a basic introduction to the stochastic process. We will classify the stochastic process into discrete valued or continuous valued, okay, and then whether the parameter, which is normally the time, whether it is a discrete parameter or a continuous parameter, stochastic process, and so on. We will also talk about some important class of stochastic process called as the Markov process, independent increment process, and so on, the Poisson process, okay, and the related exponential distribution. All those things we will talk about. We will talk about wide stationary stochastic process and a little bit about the Markov chain and various other things, even martingales, and so on. Okay. Then we will have a brief introduction to an important topic called as the queuing theory, okay, which will be useful in modeling, let us say, in communication networks and other things. We will have the basic taxonomy of how do we define a queue, and a simple queue, namely called as the MM1 queue, and some of the variations of this queue. Little bit about that. Okay, so this is what I have it in mind to cover in this course. As I mentioned, example problems will be done from various branches of science and engineering, and they will be dealt now and then. Okay, so in this course, although the evaluation strategy is still to be worked out, you should be aware that apart from problems which will be numerical and theoretical in nature, which will be asked in the quizzes or in the final exam or the end semester, there will be two components which will carry mark. One, there will be a computer-based simulation of some random phenomenon. Okay, we will probably use MATLAB in order to do the simulation. Okay, of some random phenomenon or a stochastic process or a queue and so on. and you should be able to do this assignment problem, okay, or a mini project, and then maybe as single person or in a form of a group of 2 or 3 individuals, and then perform this simulation based experiment and give the result. So this will typically carry some marks, maybe 10 or 15 and so on. There may also be a term paper in which we may be asked to study some advanced concept in a particular topic in broadly in probability, and present it to others by writing an essay on that, or presenting it to others through a small video and so on. So this term paper will or may also be there, which will also carry some mark, maybe about 10 marks and so on. The rest of the marks will be divided into internal evaluation and in the end semester, and that is what is to be worked out. That will be decided based on what the academic section tells us. Well, with this in mind, we will just look at the various books that you can refer to in this one. There is no one given textbook, okay, because this field is a very well defined field. There are a number of excellent books that are available for this one. You may go ahead and use any one of them, okay. So some of the textbooks or the reference books I have listed it out. So Introduction to Probability Models by Ross, Sheldon M. Ross, and this is the very well known book by Papolis and Unikrishnan Pillai. Then the book by Betsigers and Teslisis. Then you have the book by Stark and Wood, which will also be used, which will have more electrical engineering application in mind in this book. This is a very simple book, but maybe it will illustrate the concept more in a lucid manner, by Yates. Then we have Probability and Stochastic Modeling by Rotar, and Probability and with Application of Engineering by Carlton, and so on. Well, see, there are many books as such. It's not that you may have to, you try to get hold of one of these books or maybe any other good book, and you can follow that. I will try to, we will try to post the, usually we try to post the lecture notes on this one, because this time it is going to be an online lecture on all the online course. The video lectures are themselves being available in the Moodle page, which you can go through whenever you want. Along with the handouts also will be available. So this is how we will try to go through. So the evaluation process is not yet fixed, as I mentioned. This was the one which was used the last time, but this time it is going to be a different one. So don't worry about it as of now. We will look at it later. So in this first lecture, I have given the lecture in a manner wherein there is a video of my presentation was also there. But in the subsequent lecture, I will try to give it in a manner so that there will be a slides along with my audio. My video may not be present in order to save the bandwidth, because the size of the lectures are of importance, because for those who have the connectivity problem, if you want to download files of lesser size, okay, it's very important that the size has to be less. To that extent, I may not have the video component all the time. Once in a while, I may bring in those things also. So with this in mind, I will stop this orientation lecture. We will start off with the first lecture. Okay, recorded lecture will be available. You can look into it. Okay, so we will stop at this point.